What's going on YouTube? So of course several years ago Chevy brought back the Blazer nameplate, but as you can probably tell, this isn't your ordinary Blazer. This is the all-new Blazer EV, one of Chevy's first all-electric crossovers. So with great range, tons of style, and surprising performance, is now the time to make the switch to EV? Well, let's go ahead and find out. Alright, so let's get started with our spec dump as always. Now we went ahead and popped the hood, but since this is electric, you're not going to find anything under here. And by the way, this does not have a frunk. But underneath, you're going to find several different selections. So you can choose 3 different drivetrains and actually 2 different battery capacities depending on your needs. We're going to talk about that extensively later in the test drive because it's quite a bit to discuss. But as far as this model, just know this has 288 horsepower, 333 pound-feet of torque since it is the all-wheel drive model.
And as far as range figures, the maximum range can be up to 324 miles, which is very impressive. But of course, like Drew said, we're going to be talking about that extensively in the test drive portion. There is a really cool exterior that we can't wait to show you. So let's go ahead and dive into that.
Now, like we mentioned in the introduction, we said, is now the time to switch to EV? Is it time to trade in your gas Blazer for this Blazer EV? Well, one of the main reasons why you might consider doing that is the way this looks. This is a really good looking electric crossover. So compared to the gas Blazer, you're going to notice that this is wider, it's lower to the ground, and overall it just looks more aggressive and sleek. So up here in the front, let's break down some of the design characteristics. You're going to notice we have kind of a modern take on the Chevy grille. This obviously being an EV means that your fascia is mostly sealed off, but you do still have the black grille shape. And this is the RS trim level. This will be available in LT and RS trim levels initially is what's going to be offered. And there's a few differences between those trim levels. I do want to talk about lighting though. This is one of the things that really stands out. You'll notice that we have full LED lighting and a really unique overall shape. These are going to be projector LED headlights. You also have your turn signal indicator. And then you have the large light bar that goes all the way across the front, including a illuminated bow tie emblem. And it's not just illuminated, it does have some tricks up its sleeve. So when you approach the vehicle and unlock it, it is going to give you an animation for entry and exit. And it also presents to you the charging status when you plug in the model, which is very handy. Now, as we come around to the rear, just like the gas-powered Blazer, you are going to notice some Camaro-inspired design elements, but even more so with this EV version. Everything's just dialed up to be a little bit more aggressive looking.
Yeah, definitely you'll notice that in the spoiler design up here. It looks really cool, and you'll really notice it when it comes to the taillight. Now, Drew's going to go ahead and hop inside, and we're going to check and see if all the elements are LED in this taillight. So we do have an LED brake light portion, LED reverse light down here, and we have an LED turn signal indicator. So all 3 elements are LED. I also want to point out that just like the front, we have those animations in the rear as well. So really cool lighting elements with this Blazer EV. Now, of course, for our Blazer branding, we do have that blue font, which is signifying this is an electric vehicle after all. And then down here at the very bottom, all this is going to be finished in a piano black. I really like the way this looks. And as far as your tow rating, you can actually tow up to 1,500 pounds in the Blazer EV.
Now, in terms of your wheels, you're also going to have large and stylish options. The LT trim will be offered with a 19-inch alloy wheel. This RS trim level is going to come with these 21-inch alloy wheels, which I think look very stylish overall. We do have this contrast design, and then you've got the little arrow covers here to help you with overall efficiency. And when the SS trim level hits the market, it will come with 22-inch alloys. We also have the gloss black finish that goes around the wheel arches, and that kind of leads me to this area right here. This very large section is actually our charge port, so if you press that button, it will power out of the way and give you that access to your charge port where you can do up to 190 kilowatt hour DC fast charging. Now come up here to our mirrors. We do have a fully loaded mirror on board with this RS trim level. So we have blind spot monitoring, we have auto dimming, power folding, and heating.
Now here at the side, you're once again going to see a very stylish design with a floating roof concept through here. And as far as the overall length, it's 192.2 inches long, which is a little bit longer than the gas version of the Blazer. And as Drew mentioned at the front, it's going to be longer, lower, and wider than that model itself. Now, as far as some of the other design elements I want to hit, I do want to point out that on the future SS version, you will be able to get a two-tone roof, which will look really cool. And I do also want to point out, for those of you that don't know, this actually really doesn't share any platform or anything with the gas version of the Blazer. It's going to be on the Ultium platform, so this is really not related besides for the name. And as far as your safety systems are concerned, Chevy is including the majority of them as standard equipment on the Blazer EV. You will have the option of getting adaptive cruise control on the higher end models, and you're also going to have the option of getting the Super Cruise system, which of course is a very advanced hands-free driving system. Very cool. Would recommend buying that feature. However, it's not going to be available in the first model year of this, so that will be available next year. But guys, there's a lot of really cool stuff on the inside that I can't wait to show you, so let's go ahead and dive into that. But first,
if you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We may be young, but we love cars.
And we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family. Let's learn a lot, have some fun with all the latest cars.
All right, now it's time to go ahead and check out the interior. First, we'll take a look at the key fob. You do, of course, have a smart entry system. Chevy's just giving you the traditional Chevy key fob. Nothing special is really going on here. You do have remote start built into the fob. And to get inside, you also have a traditional door handle, so there's not a sensor behind the handle. You're just going to press that silver button. That'll unlock the door and fold the mirror out. But once you actually look inside the cabin, that's where things start to get a little less traditional, especially compared to the gas Blazer. And let's start off by talking about your color and material choices. So the LT is going to come with the Evo Tex leatherette, and if you choose the RS trim level, you're going to get the Evo Tex leatherette and a suede combination seat. As you can see, right now we're in the most colorful option. This is going to be a red and black combo, or you can get a solid black if you prefer. This is a very bold looking combo, but I have to say I really like the overall look with the contrast finish. The suede here in the center is going to help you your body stay in place as you go around corners aggressively. We even have RS branding up here at the top, since this part is finished in suede as well. Down below, we have a 10-way power adjusting seat across the range with 2-way lumbar support, and you also have memory seating located right there on the door trim. But let's go ahead and climb inside. Now, as you can see, as soon as I got inside with the key, the vehicle just went ahead and powered on. That is one thing I do want to point out. You don't have any traditional push-button start, so you're not going to notice anything going on here. You either just get inside and have it power on, or you can press your foot on the brake, and that will go ahead and power the vehicle on. Nevertheless, let's talk about our overall cabin materials, first of all. So we'll start out over here with our door trim. Obviously, we have got the full red leatherette running all through here. We do have a black leatherette that's going to be running across the top part of the door trim with a stitching detail. And then you've got this black-looking faux carbon fiber trim that's going to run through the center. Going to the upper part of the dashboard, we have a leatherette trim up here. You're going to have a red leatherette running through the center section with more of that black trim. And as we go down to this area, strongly angled towards the driver, we've got some nice vents. These are kind of classic Blazer vents that gives you a feel like the classic Camaros. And then down here on the side, we do have more leatherette with padding. Overall, everything in here actually fits together very nicely and feels solid. Now, it's already started up, so we can kind of go straight into our technology. So first and foremost, let's kind of move into the gauge cluster. This is going to be an 11-inch digital gauge cluster. It will be included on all versions of the Blazer EV. And this is all the latest and greatest in terms of General Motors technology. So you have, I counted, I believe, 6 different designs that we can cycle between, including this one here, which is a great one where the map takes up pretty much the entire display. And you have no excuse to get lost because you also have a large head-up display, and this is a great head-up display. Really large, really vivid graphics, and has a lot of information, especially when you're navigating. You get all the navigation stuff. Now, pulling back to the steering wheel, I really love this steering wheel. It's a very thick, meaty feeling steering wheel, nice leather wrapping on board. It is also flat bottomed here with the RS trim level. And in terms of the wheel itself, it will be manual tilt and telescoping. We are also going to have steering wheel heating as an optional feature. All right, now I want to go ahead and get into interior storage because this is something that's quite impressive with this Blazer EV, also especially in comparison to the gas Blazer. We'll start out underneath our center console. This is pretty traditional, but it is very large. As you can see, plenty of space, and this is Car Confections after all, so you know we got to do our donut test since that is our emblem. And this is rated for 13 donuts. That is a quite impressively cavernous center console. Now up in front of that, you'll notice kind of somewhat hidden underneath of it, we have a large wireless phone charging pad angled so your phone won't slide. And then this right here is one of the unique elements in front of the cup holders, is how deep this storage area is. Most cars just have a little shallow area. This thing here is absolutely cavernous, guys. It goes all the way down there. You can store just about as much stuff as you can in the center console itself. One of the reasons why, of course, is there's no shifter right here. We have our shifter as a column-mounted electronic style shifter. So in terms of operation, you're just going to pull back and then bump down. That's for drive. Do the opposite for reverse. When you go into reverse, you're going to see either a traditional backup camera or this optional 360-degree camera system pop up. As you can see, we've got the ladder option, and you have lots of different views that you can choose between located right over here. I will say one thing is that it doesn't actually take up a whole lot of the display, which I thought was a little unusual. And then just press the end of the stalk for park. Now, as we kind of move on above the vents I already mentioned, you'll come to our climate controls. Now, one of the things that's cool about this is that even though you do have climate buttons built into the screen itself, you also have physical buttons located right below that. So you can easily engage with these while you're driving. It's not distracting at all. And all of those functions are going to be located right there, with the exception of your heated and ventilated seats. Those are living in just the display itself. If you choose the RS trim level, that's where you'll get the standard heated and ventilated seats, and I believe they will end up being offered on the LT trim level as well. All right, but we can't ignore it anymore. We're at the massive 17.7-inch display, and this is certainly something worth talking about because it is absolutely enormous. So let me kind of cycle back to the home screen to give you guys a good view of everything. The graphics on board with this display are fantastic. Really, everything just pops a lot. All the buttons and things to push are going to be very large because you have so much screen real estate. And this has been a very enjoyable system to use overall in terms of performance. Also kind of built into the system, you have your volume knob for your audio system, which we'll sample out in just a second. And you also have some physical controls for a few of your vehicle functions, including the headlights located right there on the left-hand side. Now with this display, you do have Google built in. So you'll notice that we have Google Maps located right in there. The display looks really rich and very nice. And you'd also have Google Assistant. But I got to talk about something because this is going to be a controversial element. The Blazer EV is the first Chevy EV, I should say, that is eliminating Android Auto and Apple CarPlay entirely. This is a new thing that General Motors is doing. They want to have control of the system in terms of being able to precondition, give you route calculations for your EV. So if you have a General Motors EV starting now, this is going to be without Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. So I'm a little disappointed by that. I think people would probably prefer to have the choice, even though this system itself is quite excellent. But let's go ahead and get into the audio system. I want to go ahead and give you guys that sample. We, of course, do have the Bose sound system. Yeah, so overall sound quality of this system is quite good. Also, you do have a cool trim that kind of goes around the volume knob since, again, it is built into the display itself. Now, as we rise above here, On this model, we do have the available digital camera rear view system. You also do have HomeLink universal remotes built into that. And then up top, we actually don't have the panoramic sunroof on this model, but you can also get the panoramic sunroof. And one of the things that's good about it compared to other EVs is the fact it does have a traditional sunshade and it does open up.
And let's check out the Blazer EV's rear seat. Now, this is going to be an area that, honestly, coming into doing this review, I thought it would probably not be as good as it is. But sitting back here, holy moly, there is a ton of space. And if you're curious as to how it compares to the regular gas-powered Blazer, you will not be sacrificing really anything when it comes to space. So let's go ahead and hit those figures first. About 39 inches of legroom and about 39 inches of headroom. Those are very impressive leg and headroom figures that match the Blazer EV. It's nearly identical to a lot of its Blazer gas model, and it's nearly identical to the vast majority of its electric competition. For someone who's 5'9" like myself, with the seat adjusted to Drew, who is 5'8", we're sitting at 9.5 inches of knee space, so just an abundance of knee space. My feet can slide up underneath the seat, and the seat itself is very comfortable. I will say the headrest is a little bit too far back, but other than that, it's a very comfortable place to spend time. Now, as far as some of the features, we do have those same style vents back here in the rear. I really like the look of that. Dropping below that, we have 2 USB-C ports, and we're also going to have 3-stage heated rear seats as well. Those are optional here on the RS trim level, and I do like that we're having the heated rear seats. And then if we fold down the center armrest, we do have 2 cup holders inside. If you check out the door trim is going to be nicely done as well. A lot of that red leather, and we also have storage down in the very bottom. Now, walking up to the tailgate area, we do have a standard hands-free power tailgate, so you can kick your foot under the bumper, or you can just locate the button underneath the trunk lid, and that's going to go ahead and open this space up. And you're probably also curious, do you sacrifice a lot of space when you choose the Blazer EV over the regular gas Blazer? The answer is, once again, no. There is a lot of cargo space back here. 25.5 cubic feet behind the seats. If we fold those seats down, we're going to have a maximum of 59 cubic feet. So we have a large amount of space back here. It is a little difficult for me to fold the seats. I'm not the tallest person out there. There's not any handles in the cargo area, so you do have to lean up there and fold them down, but it's possible. You just would ideally want to be over 5'9" to do that, but they do fold 60-40 split, and that cargo figure really is quite impressive, and it's going to match that of a lot of its main rivals in the electric fronts like the Tesla Model Y and Hyundai Ioniq 5. Now, I want to go ahead and get these cargo measures for you, because that's something we do in all of our Car Confections reviews, so you can see how much cargo length and width you're going to have. As far as the cargo length, we're sitting at 72 inches of length, so exactly 6 foot to the driver's seat, adjusted to someone who's 5'8". And as far as the cargo width, we are sitting at 45 inches of cargo width. So very good figures there in terms of that. And then as far as how much space you have behind the second row, that's going to be sitting at around 31 inches of space. As far as other things to mention, we do have quite a bit of underfloor storage. Of course, you're not going to have a spare tire. That's to reduce weight. Make sure this vehicle is as efficient as possible. Alrighty guys, so we're behind the wheel of the all-new Chevy Blazer EV. There is a lot to talk about in this powertrain part. There's a lot of different options for you, and we can't wait to break that down. Of course, we'll be talking about other things as well, as you can see on the screen right now, including getting our signature sound level reading going 55 miles per hour. But first, let's go ahead and start with giving a little bit of an acceleration.
Nice. So obviously we're emerging onto the freeway here, and you're certainly going to have plenty of power to get the job done. And you'll notice, of course, the instantaneous electric torque. This is an EV after all, so as soon as you put your foot down, you immediately get that pushback in your seat, and you are off to the races. Now, let's kind of remind you quickly about some of the basic specifications. Right now, we're driving the all-wheel drive model, so that means we're going to have 288 horsepower, 333 pound-feet of torque on board. And as far as the battery pack, we have the 85 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery pack. Now, of course, we do also have other versions. This vehicle is available in a lot of versions.
Yes.
And that is kind of a key thing about this model, is just how many versions it's available in.
Yeah, so right now we are in the all-wheel drive version. They do also have a more powerful rear drive version available. The rear drive version is going to be rated at 340 horsepower, a little less torque though at 325 pound-feet of torque, and that's instead of the 85 kilowatt hour battery pack actually going to be paired to the larger 102 kilowatt hour battery pack. So quite a few different pieces going on with the puzzle of the powertrain with this Blazer EV, that's for sure. There is also a front-wheel drive option that will be available on the LT version of this model. So on the more affordable end, they're offering that front-wheel drive version. We don't have a lot of details about that because it's not in production just yet, but do know that that will be coming to give you that more affordable price tag.
And then the final piece of the puzzle will eventually be the SS version. That's the one that's going to, really be an exciting performance model overall. But yeah, so yes, you heard us right. You have front-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, all-wheel drive options, all the battery packs, all the performance options. You're really going to have a ton of selections once all of those models get into production with this Blazer. Now, speaking of the performance of this model specifically, like I mentioned, merging onto the highway, it's going to be plenty of power, but it's not, an overwhelming amount of power, of course, because this is one of the lower powered versions in the lineup. 0 to 60 is going to be about 6 seconds if you're looking for a reference. So I know, like, when you see a lot of EVs these days, especially like Teslas, they tend to make a lot of power and really strong performance. This is tuned more for the everyday drive, I think. And that's totally fine, because in reality, the speed that some of these EVs are making is not even all that useful in the day-to-day. This is a totally usable amount of acceleration. It's not going to make you sick or anything like that, but it's going to totally blow your mind compared to what you might be used to, perhaps in a traditional Blazer that you've previously owned or another Chevy crossover.
Yeah, the instantaneous torque makes it definitely feel like it's a lot quicker than even the numbers suggest. 6 seconds to 60 is not massively more powerful or quicker than the regular Blazer. It is quicker, but it's not crazy difference. But when you get in this, if you've never driven an EV before, you're going to feel like it's way faster. And I will say that since we're in the all-wheel drive version today, I do believe this will be the volume seller, at least for the first model year, before some of those other versions, like the front-wheel drive version, comes out. I believe Chevy expects that actually to be the volume seller when it does come out, but for the next model year, this all-wheel drive system is probably going to be the Blazer that most of you guys are choosing for inclement weather, those types of situations, and I've certainly been impressed with it so far on our drive this morning.
And we did get a little bit of seat time yesterday with the rear-wheel drive, the one that does have more power. And I would say that it's not really a super noticeable difference at all, just a little bit more power. All right, we're going to do an acceleration from a stop here in sport mode. There we go.
Nice.
Yeah, now that we're in sport mode, you can tell things get a little bit more aggressive. We're going around some corners here. We're in a nice kind of canyon road outside of San Diego, California today. And I can already tell this is going to be an enjoyable drive. This, of course, like we mentioned, is not the performance version for the upcoming SS, but there's going to be a lot of sport kind of baked into it just by the way that they have built this model.
Yeah.
So this, of course, is riding on GM's Ultium platform, and because of that, you're going to have, of course, a large battery pack sitting low in the chassis. This allows you to have a good balanced feel when you're behind the wheel as we go around these corners. You're going to notice not much body roll at all. It's really handling this quite nicely. keeping things nice and balanced, good feel with the steering. It's going to be relatively lightweight, especially when you're in the normal mode, but you will notice that it has a nice weight to it when you go into the sport mode, and you can actually customize into your own individual mode depending on which combination of settings that you like between throttle response, steering, things like that.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a big difference. We keep bringing up the regular Blazer, but I think a lot of you guys, this is a more mainstream electric SUV. So if you're coming from a traditional gas version, you're definitely going to appreciate the sporty flair that this Blazer EV, even in just its normal trim levels, not the SS, is bringing to the table. Yeah. Another thing I do want to point out is that when you put it into sport mode, it's definitely going to have more of a sound effect coming into the cabin when you accelerate. It really has quite a lot of sound amplification, which I do believe that you can configure however you're going to want it. But I kind of like the sound amplification as opposed to just dead silent like our Tesla when we previously owned that. I think it gives you a little bit more of a sensation of acceleration.
Right, this is not an overbearing kind of sound effect. I do like the way that it, like Mason said, just kind of enhances the overall feel.
Now, as far as other things I want to talk about, I do want to just go ahead and hit your ride quality for the Blazer EV. We drove the rear drive version yesterday. We're driving the all-wheel drive today, so we've had quite a bit of seat time in this model already, and certainly the ride quality is pretty darn impressive for this model. I think Chevy has done a really good balance between the sporty flair that we were talking about just a little bit ago and also making it a very comfortable ride. Even with the large wheels, when you hit a bump, it doesn't have a ton of intrusion into the cabin, which I'm definitely very happy to say. The seats are very comfortable as well. And what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to go ahead and toggle us back into the normal drive mode and get our sound level reading going 55 miles an hour. I don't know how many roads will have the 55 mile an hour speed limit, so let's go ahead and get it on this. In today's sample on this rougher road, we're sitting at 62.1 decibels, which is a good sound level reading for this road. This is a very rough road. We're here in California, like Drew mentioned. We're just outside of San Diego on a canyon road. These tend to be the loudest types of roads that you can really drive on. However,
this has not been repaved recently.
Yeah, however, we did actually get a sound level reading in the rear drive version on a little bit of a smoother road, and we were quite a bit quieter. I think overall you're going to be pretty impressed with the sound level entering into the cabin. Of course, this is a full EV, and Chevy has done a lot to make it seem like a pretty premium experience in here.
Right, and I think circling back to what Mason was saying earlier with the ride quality as well, I do want to say that you can kind of tell there's a little bit of that lyric because they do share a size of this platform.
Yeah.
When you hit those really big bumps, I think that's where you really notice that it does a great job of taking those really big bumps out. All the harshness is gone. You could say maybe there's just a little bit of Cadillac-ness in it, which is a great compliment because we definitely liked the solid feel of the Lyric when we drove that.
And as far as some other housekeeping things, I do want to just go ahead and reiterate, we talked about it a little earlier, but you have the option between front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, or rear drive. So that's a very unique thing about this Blazer EV is you have all three drive configurations. I honestly can't think of another vehicle on the top of my head that has three different drive configurations. The reason Chevy said that they are offering it in three different versions is just to maximize, of course, the affordability factor as well as to give people the option. So if you're in a colder climate where you need all-wheel drive, of course, get the all-wheel drive version. If you're in California, like right here, you might want the rear drive version with the most power. And if you're price conscious, the front-wheel drive version is going to be the most affordable Blazer EV that you can get. yet. So that's one of the unique things about this product. You're probably also curious about the range, so let's go ahead and talk about that. We have no official range figures for the front-wheel drive model just yet. As I mentioned earlier, that will be coming out next model year, so you won't be able to get that as a 2024 Blazer. But the rear drive version has the best range currently. That will be coming in at 324 miles of EPA estimated range, which that's actually very good range. You actually have to get the extended range version of the Mach-E to get about that same range figure, and that's what you're going to have as the standard option for the rear drive. And then all-wheel drive, if you need that additional performance, is coming in at 279 miles.
As far as our drive today, we don't have a lot of data. Obviously, this is a first drive inside of the Blazer, but we can tell you that so far, heavy acceleration and everything, the efficiency rating has been 2.5 miles per kilowatt hour. I think that's pretty darn good, considering we've been doing a bunch of hard accelerations and things like that. As you've noticed, we're using climate control, navigation, the whole 9 yards, and it's still coming in quite efficient.
And speaking of quickness, let's talk about how quickly this vehicle can charge up. So the Blazer EV is capable of 190 kilowatt fast charging on a DC charger. As far as how much range that will give you 78 miles of range in about 10 minutes. Of course, you can charge it on different charging infrastructures like level 2 and level 1 as well.
Now over here on the left side of the steering wheel, you do have a top and bottom paddle shifter, and this is where you can dynamically adjust the amount of regen that you have on the fly. One of the other nice things that you can do with the Blazer EV is go into a one-pedal drive mode, and that's actually going to be available to you all the time. Right here next to the steering wheel, there's a button which has the one-pedal drive on it. You can toggle it on and off at any time, allowing you to mostly avoid using the brake pedal. For those of you who don't know how that system works, it dials the regen up to the maximum capacity where you can just kind of lift off the gas and you can bring the vehicle to a complete stop without touching the brake.
Yeah. And as far as last things to talk about, let's talk about the warranty. This vehicle is going to be protected by Chevy's signature warranty, which is a 3-year, 36,000 mile basic warranty, a 5-year, 60,000 mile powertrain warranty. The battery components are actually protected for additional terms, so 8 years on 100,000 miles, and then you do also get your first complimentary service visit. And you're probably curious, how much is this going to cost? Is it going to be super expensive and out of the mainstream price segment? Well, I'm happy to say that it's not super expensive. So we're going to start at $51,800 for the 2LT model, which is what we have available here at launch. Now, of course, keep in mind that Chevy will be making more affordable versions of the Blazer EV. They're just not going to be available quite at launch. So that front-wheel drive version that we were talking about in the test drive, you will be able to get that. And of course, that will have a little bit of a cheaper price point. Now, as far as what we're looking at today, we have the RS all-wheel drive, which is going to be $56,200, and then the rear drive RS is actually going to cost a little bit more because, of course, you do have better performance, better range at $57,200. Now, as tested today with the option package, we're sitting a little over $60,000, and do keep in mind that you may be eligible, depending on your tax situation, depending on regulation here in the U.S., for that $7,500 tax rebate. So if you factor that in, you are looking at a very similar price to a fully loaded gas-powered Blazer. And if you're looking to buy a Blazer EV or any new vehicle, we want to remind you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes, because that will connect you with local dealers in your area to get you the best price on your new vehicle. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool for dealership negotiation. If you'd like to take advantage of that, a link is provided in our video description. And guys, that's where we're going to leave off on this in-depth review of the all-new 2024 Chevy Blazer EV. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, we would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you help get us invited to events like this where we can come and sample out some of the latest products on the market. So please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already and become a part of our Car Confections family. If you're already a part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.